The rain came down hard over Port Charles, blurring streetlights into trembling halos and turning the night into a mirror of Valentin Cassadine's thoughts, dark, restless, and layered with secrets. Inside his elegant townhouse, Valentin stood by the window, a glass of untouched scotch in his hand. Power had always been his armor, control his language. But tonight the crocks showed, and they all led back to one person, his daughter. Charlotte had always been his greatest weakness, though he would never admit it aloud. For a Cassadine, love was supposed to be a liability, something to bury beneath strategy and ambition. Yet Valentin had never mastered that lesson. Every move he made, every enemy he crushed or alliance he forged, carried her name in the margins. A folder lay open on his desk, security reports, intercepted messages, red flags screaming for attention. Someone knew. Someone had figured out that Charlotte was more than just a boarding school student tucked safely away overseas. She was leverage. Valentin closed the folder sharply. "Not again," he muttered. He had survived exile, betrayals, and wars that reshaped families, but this threat was different. This threat had a heartbeat. Across town, whispers had already begun. Cassadine rivals sensed vulnerability the way sharks sensed blood. Valentin's enemies didn't need proof. Suspicion alone was enough to start the game. The next morning, Valentin was summoned to a discreet meeting in a private club overlooking the harbor. Faces from his past sat waiting, polite smiles hiding sharpened intent. "Family changes a man, especially daughters," one of them said casually. "Only if you let it." Valentin returned the smile without warmth. But the words echoed uncomfortably in his mind long after the meeting ended. By afternoon, Valentin received a message that turned his blood cold, a warning disguised as sympathy. Accidents happen, even to the well-protected. That was when the idea took shape, cold, desperate, and dangerously clever. If Charlotte was his weakness, then perhaps she could also be his shield. That night, Valentin paced his study, every step measured, every breath controlled. Faking a death was a Cassadine tradition as old as deception itself. It was dramatic, effective, and irreversible in the court of public opinion. If the world believed Charlotte was gone, she would become untouchable. But the cost... Valentin pressed his palms against the desk, eyes closing. The thought of telling his daughter she must disappear, erase herself, twisted something deep inside him. Yet the alternative was far worse. In a secure video call, Charlotte's face appeared on the screen. She was older now, sharper, with his eyes and her mother's intuition. "You're scared," she said immediately. "Concerned, that's different." She didn't believe him. She never had when it mattered most. When he finally explained, silence stretched between them like a chasm. "You want me to be dead," Charlotte said quietly. "I want you alive," Valentin replied, voice breaking despite his control. "This is the only way I know how to protect you." Tears welled, but Charlotte didn't look away. "Then do it right," she said. "Make them believe it." Preparations moved quickly and quietly. A staged accident, conflicting eyewitness accounts, a body that couldn't be identified, enough chaos to bury the truth forever. Port Charles woke to the news like a collective gasp. Social media buzzed, rumors exploded, condolences poured in. Valentin stood before cameras, grief carved into his face so convincingly even he felt the weight of it. Inside, something shattered. Days passed. Valentin withdrew from public life, exactly as expected of a grieving father. His enemies relaxed, satisfied that fate had done what they could not. But alone, Valentin unraveled. He replayed Charlotte's last words again and again. He questioned every choice, every lie. Power felt meaningless without her laughter, her sharp questions, her stubborn hope. Then came the twist he hadn't anticipated. A message slipped through his secure channel, 3 words that froze him in place. She was seen. Charlotte, alive, in Port Charles. Valentin's carefully constructed world tilted. Had she disobeyed him, or had someone discovered the truth? Either way, the fake death meant to save her might now destroy him. Because if the lie was exposed, Valentin wouldn't just lose credibility, he'd lose everything: his alliances, his influence, his protection. And worst of all, he might lose the one person he tried desperately to save. As Valentin stared out at the darkened harbor once more, one truth settled heavily in his chest. In trying to outrun fate, he may now have run straight into it. In Port Charles, love was never safe, and for Valentin Cassadine, his daughter wasn't just his weakness, she was the storm that could bring his empire down.